Quorum is present, and this meeting has been duly called and posted in the time and manner required by law. Welcome to our March 9th Board of Trustees meeting. We will start today with a boatload of recognitions. So, great recognitions. We're very excited about doing that. So, we are going to start with recognizing our state qualifying destination imagination teams. I'm going to call Linda Landine to the podium and let her come up. Linda is the principal of Waters Elementary, and she's the regional director for the Northwest Plains DI. Linda, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hey, it is my honor to recognize the state qualifying Destination Imagination teams. 9 Lubbock ISD Destination Imagine teams advanced to the 2023 Lone Star Finals State DI Tournament after competing at the Northwest Plains Regional Tournament. The Northwest Plains DI Regional Tournament took place on February 11th in Levelland, Texas, where 12 out of the 23 Lubbock ISD competitive teams placed or medaled. Teams from Waters Elementary, Ramirez Elementary, Hutchison Middle School, Talkington School for Young Women Leaders, and Lubbock High School advanced to the state tournament. LISD was also awarded 3 wildcard spots for Lubbock High School, Talkington, and Preston Smith Elementary, bringing the total number of teams competing to the state competition to 12, the most Lubbock ISD has ever advanced to the state level. The teams will travel to the state affiliate DI tournament hosted in Arlington, Texas on March 24th and 25th. The teams advancing to the state tournament are Ramirez Elementary in the technical challenge Piece by Piece. Team members are Oliver White, Sarah Davila, Johnny Flores, Sawyer Melendez, Marlo Barnes, Jordan Lozano Lazoya, Mason Crawford. Team managers are Stephanie Barnes and Jan Lapilio Smith.
If you could get the team managers and Mrs. Hernandez. Sarah Davila.
That's it, her name. Sarah Davila.
We're taking a team picture. So Sarah.
Yeah, team managers.
Parents, y'all feel free to come up close if y'all want closer pictures on these group pictures.
What's
Let me make a quick announcement to the parents. So you guys can go ahead and go with your kids. And we got to switch. We got to do a big switcheroo. There's a QR code out in the hallway. You can scan that for photos. So if you didn't have a chance to come up and get photos, we'll have those ready for you guys. So feel free to go with your kids and you can have breakfast out at the food truck.
The next team is Waters Elementary for the Service Learning Challenge High Stakes. Kylie Funk, Jasmine Tijerina Landine, Noah Castro. Madden Laura. Britton Bradford. Braylon Bradford. Marley Guerrero. Team managers are Melissa Funk and Doak Funk.
Good job.
Okay, group picture, Mrs. London.
Yeah. Back for a team picture? Oh, sorry. Y'all all piled up.
Over here, one, look, their certificates around. There you go. 1, 2, 3.
The next team is Waters Elementary Scientific Challenge Far-Fetched. Caesar Britz Hill. Brady Weidman. Emma Dominguez. Harper Reed. Brexley Barlett. Benjamin Falcon. Olivia Arnold. Team managers are Allison Weidman and Kelly Espinoza. I get my steps in.
Just wait till we get after spring break. All right, y'all. Make sure your certificates are up. Thank you, smile. Awesome, congratulations.
Next is Smith Elementary for Service Learning Challenge High Stakes. Carter Wren. Merrick Poponce. Peyton Douglas. Jameson Epler. Owen Underwood. Olivia Underwood. And Addison Gatlin. Team managers are Darbara Poponce and Sue Thomas. Next is Hutchinson Middle School, the Technical Challenge Piece by Piece. Miles Collins. Presley Davis. Carson Funk. Elena Tijerina Landine. Team managers are Cheryl Wood, Patrick Collins, and Melissa Funk. Cheryl and Patrick and Melissa.
Hold on just a second.
Team managers are. Great job.
Sorry, there's a lot of us.
That is okay.
Next team is Talkington School for Young Women Leaders in the Improv Challenge Showdown. Briley Weichel. Zoe Summerford. Adeline Brown. Abarita Arushi. Zariah Escobar. Team managers are Kim Turner and Lindsay Fitzhugh. Talkington School for Young Women Leaders, the Scientific Challenge Farfetch was Alyssa Huerta, Emily Aldinger, Madeline Nguyen. Their team managers are Kim Turner and Lindsay Fitzhugh. Talkington School for Young Women Leaders in the Fine Arts Challenge Flip the Script was Mabel Roller, Araceli Carlson, Olivia Phillips, Natalie Alfaro, Grace Coughlin, Adrita Roy. Team managers are Kim Turner and Lindsay Fitzhugh. Talkington School for Young Leaders in the Arts Challenge, in the Fine Arts Challenge, Flip the Script. We have Kaylin Davis, Amaya Saltler, who could not be here, and Caitlin Wishmeyer, who also could not be here. Their team managers are Kim Turner and Lindsay Fitzhugh. Talkington School for Young Women Leaders in the Service Learning Challenge, High Stakes. The team members are Faith Barbie, Anna Galbraith, Lila Fowler, Allison Phillips, Adeline Hobine. Team managers are Kim Turner and Lindsay Fitzhugh. Next team is Lubbock High School in the Service Learning Challenge High Stakes. Lexi Jackson, Maricela Calderon, Shinran Yi is not able to be here, and Mary Hawker, who is also not able to be here. Their team managers are Jennifer Harris and James Harris.
Mr. Young.
Lubbock High School Engineering Thrill Ride, Savannah Majors, Rosalind Olanaron, Syra Sheikh, Mira Ramirez, who is not able to be here, and Leilani Prado. The team managers are Jennifer Harris and James Harris. Thank you so much. I want to thank the board and Dr. Rollo for allowing these students the opportunity to participate in Destination Imagination. And I know that they will represent Lubbock ISD really well in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
There's another group. Our next group that we will recognize is the state qualifying academic decathlon teams. Is everybody in the room that needs to be in the room? Are we good? Okay, then I will call Chad Haskins up to the podium. He's the advanced academics coordinator.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to recognize outstanding academic students. And I have to pardon me for 1 second because I'm blind without these. So this year we are excited to recognize 3 Lubbock Independent School District teams that qualified for and participated in the state academic decathlon competitions in February. Lubbock High School and Monterey High School competed in the Thomas E. Mosley State Finals in San Antonio, Texas, while Coronado High School competed in the Frisco State Finals. At the San Antonio meet, Lubbock High School finished 4th place overall in the medium school division with an overall score of 43,208 points. This was just 350 points shy of the 3rd place team, so they were extremely competitive. The team brought home 14 individual event medals, and senior Leonardo DeFarias finished 5th place overall in the scholastic division. This place earned him a $500 scholarship from Texas Academic Decathlon. The Monterey High School had a great amount of success too and brought home 5 individual event medals. At the Frisco State Finals, Coronado High School earned 7 individual event medals and 2 students placed as top scorers in the meet. Junior Zach Wilkinson placed 3rd place overall in the scholastic division, earning a $1,000 Texas Academic Decathlon scholarship, and junior Jack Logan placed 4th overall, earning a $750 scholarship. In addition to these scholarships awarded by Texas Academic Decathlon, students who compete in the regional and state meets are awarded local scholarships who are provided by 2 very generous donors. Sodexo School Services donated $12,500 in scholarship monies this year and has supported Academic Decathlon for probably over a decade. I don't know how far back they go, but it's been a long time. Sodexo is represented today by District Manager Troy Talley. We also had a private donor, Dr. Eugene Stallnecker, who generously donated $2,500 towards these scholarships. These scholarships are an important part of our decathlon program and help these talented students achieve their future academic goals. Please help me thank these wonderful donors. I'm sorry, can you get up to recognize our teams, I'd like to invite the head coaches up. So our first team to be recognized is Coronado High School, and I invite Kayla Gray to the podium.
I am really short. Hi, I'm Kayla Gray. This is my first year to have the pleasure of coaching these excellent academic decathlon students. Overall, we had a very new team this year consisting of mostly juniors. Our 2 newest members were our varsity students who were never in octathlon, and they are Judah Foskey and Maddie Rodriguez. At state, Judah won bronze in music, and Maddie received our top team score for varsity. Meanwhile, our scholastic students walked away with some awesome achievements. Logan Jack received silver in scholastic and in art, and our 4th place individual top scorer at state, Caitlin Lopez, received gold in social science, and Zach Wilkinson won silver in music and silver in social science and 3rd place individual top scorer. In honors, Logan Foco received silver in interview, while Zach Edwards received gold in interview. And we can't forget Grayson Daly and his crazy antics outside of academics, such as doing cartwheels and getting strangers to rate them. He's truly the glue that holds our team together. I am so immensely proud of these students and all their hard work. We had a very young team this year, but we had two wonderful seniors, Caitlin Lopez and Zach Wilkinson. These two kids are some of the brightest and most genuine students out there. Caitlin will be going to the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Gross, but I forgive you. And Zach will attend Tech, Reckham, and study music. It has been an honor to get to know them this year, and I'm looking forward to watching what their future holds. And I want to thank you all for your support for this wonderful program. I want to thank first Micah Smith for really building up this program and letting me have the reins. And I want to thank our principal, Chris Huber, for all his support. And last of all, I want to really thank y'all, the school board, for supporting us in all we do. Thank you for your time.
Sorry. So she announced most of her students, but we'll invite them through. And Mr. Grayson Daly. Zachary Edwards. Logan Fogo. And something that caused me a lot of confusion this year, another Logan Jack. And then Caitlin Lopez. Zachary Wilkinson. Madison Rodriguez. And finally, Judah Foskey. And while we're getting ready for the team photo, I'll also say that Coronado High School is also coached by Miguel Calderon, Rob Cowell, Micah Smith, and Cheryl Wood. We truly appreciate their hard work. Okay, our next team to be recognized is Lubbock High School, and I invite head coach Thomas Reynolds.
So I think Kayla already said a lot of the things that we would also want to say. So thank you to the board, to the donors who help our students with scholarships to their next step in college. Thank you to all of the other decathlon coaches. We really do have a really fantastic collegiality between us. And that's very important, I think, to why we are successful as a district. And then thank you to administration here in central office and at our home campus at Lubbock High. So I'm one of our coaches. Our other two coaches are Aaron Castle and Nick Reeves, and we work really well together and are kind of also ridiculous. So that's great. So here are our students. First is Bryn Borland. She's a senior, and she'll be getting a $621 scholarship. Next is Peyton Crosby. Peyton's one of our two juniors. Peyton will be getting a scholarship for $537. Next is Leonardo DeFarius. As Mr. Haskins said, Leonardo got 5th overall in the Scholastic Division at State, and he'll be taking a check for $679. Next is McKenna Franzen. McKenna is one of our seniors, and she will be taking a check for $454. Next is Alan Guo. Alan's also a senior, and he'll be taking a check for $529. Next is Savannah Huh. Savannah's our other junior, and she'll be taking a check for $466. Next is Archer Mora. Archer's one of our seniors and new to our program, and he'll be earning a scholarship of $545. Next is Kyler Shue. Kyler was our highest scoring student on the team with a check for $679. Next is Max Zabriskie. Max is the only member of our team to have made it to our final team 2 years in a row. He's a senior. For his 2-year total, he'll be getting a check for $1,395. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. All right, our final team to be recognized is Monterey High School, and I invite head coach Lacey Oliver to the microphone.
Good morning. Teaching, much less coaching and extracurricular like academic decathlon, is a community event. We couldn't do it alone. So I want to echo the thanks that both Thomas and Kayla said earlier. We would like to thank the board for always supporting us, Dr. Rollo for continuing to support our program and serving on the state board. We would like to thank our principals, Mr. Perkypile and Mr. Luff, for continuing to support us. But more importantly, I'd like to thank our team of coaches, both at Monterey with Jennifer Pace and Logan Robertson, and then our district coaches. Like Thomas said, we can't do it alone. And then leading the helm at our district is Chad Haskins, and no one thanked him today, and they should, because he organizes us all year, and we are a crazy bunch of people. So thank you, Chad. Our team this year did outstanding. We were very proud of them. We made it to the top competition in San Antonio and ended up placing 10th overall with a score of over 38,000, and our team earned several individual medals. We'd first like to recognize Faith Obsidian Beavers. She's a junior with us. She earned 9 individual medals and will be taking a check for $516. I'd next like to recognize senior Avi Enriquez. She earned 6 individual medals and will be taking a check for $425. Next we have junior Micah Hobing. He earned 13 individual medals for a total scholarship of $658. Next we have junior Jayana Lockaby Landers. She earned 5 individual medals and will be earning scholarships of $404. Annie Luft is a junior on our team, but she's been on our Final 9 team and been to state with us 2 years in a row. She'll be earning a scholarship total of $1,110. Next we have senior Elizabeth Smart. She earned 4 individual medals and has been on our Final 9 team 2 years in a row and will be earning scholarships of $907. Next we have junior Bobby Stevens. Bobby Stevens is fresh to our program. He did not do octathlon with us. He earned 4 individual medals and will be taking scholarships of $383. Next we have senior Nova Willingham, who has been on our Final 9 team 2 years in a row. She earned 4 individual medals this year and has earned scholarships of $898. Finally, we have Jason Yee. He's a junior and he's also new to our team this year. He didn't do octathlon with us. He earned 10 individual medals for scholarships of $537. I'd like to finish by thanking our donors because without these scholarships, our kids, it's easy to lose motivation. This is a hard competition. And so these scholarships are definitely appreciated and will help our kids move into the next steps. Thank you so much.
Mark. I think one group that we have not thanked is our parents, and we truly appreciate you entrusting your students with us, and really work hard to make sure we do our best with them. Thank you.
All right. Trustee comments? Anybody?
I'm going to just keep it really short. I'm a little bit hoarse, so forgive me, bear with me. But as Chad was just saying, thanks to our parents, our staff, our teachers, you guys did a phenomenal job. From the smallest to the eldest, it was phenomenal. Again, great for the hard work. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, just very quickly, thank you to everyone that helped, all the coaches, all the mentors, everybody put in a lot of extra time to help make sure these kids have the opportunity to get additional scholarship opportunities, and along with that, special thank you to the donors for making that happen.
Amen.
Well, thank you very much. It's I know firsthand how much extra work it is on top of everything that our kids do on a daily basis. So thanks to our kids for putting in that extra work, and our coaches and our donors. So we appreciate you very much. All right, with that, we will move into item 3 of our agenda. We have a little bit of business to cover. Before we move into that, I will ask, do we have any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding any of the procurement and contract items posted? Hearing none, approval of district construction purchases. Rick Rodriguez.
Yes, good morning, Ms. Bridges, Board of Trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to present this one business item. We do have some projects we need to move forward, and so all of these are related to roof repairs. And so they're just those items that you see listed. The first is a competitive seal proposal that we opened, and you see the awards there. The others are construction manager at risks items, and so we've identified the companies that we'll be partnering with there. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions, but these are pretty standard items. We just need to move them forward.
Trustees, any questions?
Rick, this is money that has been already provided from the insurance
We're
claim.
continuing to chew at that number, that the original check that was given to us, and subsequent checks that have continued to come in.
Understood, yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any others? All right, do I have a collective motion to approve the district construction purchases as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Ratliff, second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Cepeda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we will move into an executive closed session.
Yes.
So we will move into that, and we will adjourn this meeting at 7:39.
Nice job.
because as it looks, the dust will be clearing up. So let's take a look at what today has in store. The temps won't change much for today with a high of 69, but the low will be pretty chilly with a high of 40. Now, let's start looking at the weekend. Saturday and Friday might as well be twins because Saturday has a high, once again, of 69 and a low of 42. Sunday will be heating up a bit with a high of 79 and a low of 45. And of course, in typical Lubbock style, wind will be picking up to 20 miles an hour, so make sure to hold on to your hats. Now, onto the extended forecast. Monday will continue the trend of warmer weather with a high of 79 and a low in the 40s. After that, things get cold, and they get cold fast. As Tuesday will drop to a high of 68 and a low of 30. And Wednesday, it will drop even further down to a high of 56 and a low of 30. Finally, Thursday takes the last plummet down as a high of 47 and a low of 30, so make sure to dress warm. After that, things start to finally settle down as the rest of the week has highs in the 50s and 60s and lows in the 30s. Well, Emma and Caleb, I don't know about you, but I'm glad the dust settled and moved on out of town. What do you think about our pre-spring break forecast as it looks to get pretty cold?
I'd take the cold weather over the dusty, nasty wind any day.
You're right. I don't know if you've noticed, but from that windstorm, I bet we have half an inch of dust on our lights here in the studio.
I guess spring cleaning here in the studio is on its way. And still to come on this edition of Real to Real, we keep it real with Mr. Ward. I bet he talks about basketball again because we continue to get great numbers on our broadcasts.
But first, we head on over to the Sports Connection with Abby Garcia as she covers our basketball teams and another athletic signing.
You won't want to miss that. Next on this edition of Real to Real.
Gary, you gonna wear your seatbelt?
No. Dude, I don't need a seatbelt. We're in the middle of a parking lot. We're at school, so we're fine.
So you're fine.
All right, wait.
So are we gonna wear our seatbelt from now on? Exactly. Always wear your seatbelts.
Of course we all love fantasy football around here, but once a year there's a group of students that play fantasy Lubbock ISD TV.
You know what? I'm taking Galbraith for my first pick. That guy really has an on-air presence.
Oh man, Ethan. That might be the steal of the draft. He is good.
I had him as an up-and-coming star. More like a superstar.
Is there pressure? Oh yeah, tons of pressure.
There's my guy. Good luck on your show today. Well, there goes my chances of winning fantasy this year.
Hey Sam, come check this out.
Yo, what's up, Julius? What's going on?
It's our new theme song for Real to Real.
Dude, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, right?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Let's.
get it, Sam.
Oh, dude. Oh.
Get it.
Yeah.
Get
Yo,
it.
yo, what's going
Yo,
on here?
we're listening to our new theme song for Real to Real, bro.
Can I join?
Yeah, come on, get in, bro.
Come on,
Get in.
come on. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Get it, sir.
Yeah, sir. Oh.
Delay.
Oh.
Delay.
Oh.
Go free.
Santa wasn't feeling well, so here I am to fill in. This is your Sports Connection. Joel Embiid once said, if there's one thing I want to say, I gave everything that I had, and for our area teams, they gave everything they had in postseason. And we want to say congrats to Monterey, Coronado, and Lubbock High girls as well as the Coronado boys and Monterey boys. We are super grateful to have broadcasted their games this year and them letting us go on their postseason journey. Speaking of postseason journeys, the Estacado Matadors have a huge game tonight as they play Canyon Randall in the 4A regional semifinals. And we will broadcast the game on Lubbock YouTube channel. Keeping it on the court, Monterey's own Joshua Davis was named the district's 4 to 5A Coach of the Year. This was his second year leading his alma mater, and he led the program to an impressive 25-10 record. Congrats to Coach Davis on this tremendous award. To the track and field scene, Monterey's David Morris continues to shine as he placed in first for the 3,200 meter and 1,600 meter race. On top of this, he turned around and anchored the 4x500 meter. No doubt this Monterey Plainsman can go. And over at Coronado, the Mustangs had a student athlete put pen to paper and sign on the clay baseball at Lubbock Christian University. As Jet Carroll signed in front of all of his friends and family earlier this week, of course, Jet is a dual sport athlete for the Stangs, and he was the starting quarterback this past season. But he says he's all in on baseball and excited to be a champion.
No, yeah, it's a great feeling. I mean, all through high school and then playing baseball since I was a kid, this is the moment you dream of. So it feels good to finally get out of the way and get ready for this season, kind of get that weight off your shoulders as a senior. I've dreamed of playing at LSU since I was a kid. It's been a long time in the making. I've been going and working out with their coaches for a while, and so it was just something I couldn't say no to.
You got unfinished business though, right? A lot of plans in store for the rest of your senior year?
For sure. I mean, it's not over. We got to go get a couple gold balls, try to win district, and put it on Monterey a few more times.
Of course, we are super excited for him.
Awesome. Do we have any baseball or softball teams to look out for?
Always. We have tremendous teams and players, but what I'm most excited about is the broadcasted games. And we will release the schedule in the coming weeks.
Thanks so much, Sienna.
And still to, oh, that's used to.
And still to come on this edition of Real to Real, we keep it real with Mr. Ward.
What does he have for us this week? I bet he talks basketball.
I bet he does too. And we'll have that when we come back on Real to Real.
Last year, our second-year students taught our teachers about social media. So this year, we decided to revisit.
And you just snapped. You know, you can start a streak by doing that.
A streak?
It's where you continuously snap someone every day.
Can I see a streak of my dog? My dog is much cuter than this dog.
Am I live? Like Facebook Live?
What's the story?
Hey, I moved over to TikTok.
At least you know how to say it.
Look like there's progress being made.
Real. Only on Lubbock ICTV. This week on Keeping It Real, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm so proud of our basketball coverage. You see, almost 2 weeks ago, we started our streaming our basketball games on YouTube instead of the NFHS network, and it's been tremendous for us as a program. Of course, YouTube is a free streaming service that 99% of us have on our TVs at home, which means more people get to watch our broadcasts. In fact, in the 4 games that we've done at this point, we're pushing 80,000 total views and 1.2 thousand subscribers on the Lubbock ISD YouTube channel. Yeah, it's big time. But what's even better, people are starting to notice us and our students, rather, your students, and their hard work. We have heard praises from all over, and we're so grateful for that. And our basketball journey is not done. You can watch our broadcast tonight as the Estacado Matadors game as they go
call this meeting back to order at 8:05 a.m. We've reconvened from executive closed session. Do we have any actions following closed session? Hearing none, we will move into the next item, which is our workshop. And I would like to invite Kami Finger, our Assistant Superintendent of School Support and Special Services, to the podium to present. Hi, Kami. Good morning.
And we're moving right along, like Zach says, right along. Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am. This is your School Support and Special Services Results-Driven Accountability Annual Update to the school board, and so this is required. And I know you are all very excited. Results-driven accountability is all about monitoring 3 programs of local education agencies and their emergent bilingual special populations, which includes homeless, foster, and military, and special education. The reason that they do that is they're obligated under federal regulations, and they have to give LEAs for each program area determination level of 1 through 4. And so if you're a 1, you meet requirements. If you're a 2, you need assistance. If you're a 3, you need intervention. And if you're a 4, you need substantial intervention. The way that they make that determination is by assigning indicators, performance level scores. And so for every indicator, you get a performance level score of 0, 1, 2, or 3. 0 being you rock, 1 being you're okay, 2 being you need to check your systems, and 3 being you're on fire. In addition to that, they also look at federally required elements under special education. Last year, for 2021 report, bilingual ESL were a DL3. The special populations was a DL3, and special education was a DL2. Special education is held a little more accountable than the other 2 programs, and so if we are a DL2 in special education, we have to report to the state, where the other 2 programs do not. And so our last report for this school year is that bilingual ESL is a DL2, so they improved. Other special populations were a DL2, and so we improved in that program, and special education remained the same. The federally required areas that we are accountable for are state performance plan indicators. All of those indicators, there are 16 of those for that first one. Of those 16, 7, 11, 12, 13, and 14, we have to report to the state. And for those, which include early childhood outcomes, Child Find, which is our timeliness on evaluating students for special education, early childhood transition, secondary transition, and our post-secondary outcomes, we scored a 0, which is the best score that you can get. Our valid, reliable, and timely data that we report to the state every year, we scored a 0, which is the best you can get. Our status for uncorrected noncompliance was a 0. We did not have any complaints filed against us, nor did we have any due process hearings. And our financial audits, working closely with Shay and her department, we were found to be a 0, which is also the best you can get. So the breakdown for this is for emergent bilingual, which is the new name for bilingual ESL. Shelley Bratcher and Margaret Del Toro supervise these indicators and monitor these all year long. There's 7 star categories, 2 TELPAS, 1 graduation, 1 dropout, and 1 dyslexia representation. The state's taking a close look at dyslexia across all programs. Other special populations is monitored by Martha Dodge, Jamie Martinez, and Holly Ladd. There are 6 indicators there, 3 star, 1 graduation, 1 dropout, and dyslexia representation. And then special education is Shelley Bratcher, Kathleen Metters, and also Martha Dodge. I apologize, her name needs to be there too for that discipline indicator. There are 18 indicators that have to be monitored under special education, and you can see the breakdown there. The additions are, we have to look at least restrictive environment, special education representation, 5 discipline indicators, and then the other 3 are the same as you see in emergent bilingual or other special populations. And so we'll move next into our section where we talk about the progress that we've made and what we plan to do for what we still have to improve upon. So for bilingual students, these students are accessing our dual language programs For math and reading, you saw percentage increases from 2021 to 21-22. For ESL students, those students that are in regular classrooms receiving strategies, ESL strategies, you saw improvement in math, reading, science, and in social studies. For bilingual ESL students who are also students with dyslexia, for STAR 3 through 8 reading, you saw gains there. For bilingual ESL and emergent bilingual, all combined, for math, science, social studies, and English, you saw gains there. And I apologize for the other slides. I didn't get the green in those as I was building it. For other special populations, this is your foster, military, and homeless students combined. We saw improvement in reading. For other special populations for math, we saw improvement in math. You also recognize that the performance level score went from a 2 to a 1. So when it goes from a 2 to a 1, we do not have to write strategies and activities around that indicator anymore. But if it stays at a 2 or a 3, we are writing corrective action, we're writing strategies and activities alongside our campuses to improve in that area. For special education, we saw improvement with our graduation rate. We stayed at a PL1. For special education for STAR, we saw improvement in math, reading, science, and social studies. However, our PL scores, if they're yellow, stayed the same as they did the year before, which means we still continue addressing those areas. For special education, total disciplinary removals, we saw improvement. You want to see this percentage go down. So we've gone from 68.4 to 42.9, and our performance level score, unfortunately, is still the same. So we do have progress left to make, obviously, on many indicators. And so to give you just an at-a-glance view, this is the emergent bilingual, or the first two. So they have scores of PL2 and a PL3 in EOC, English 1 through 2, and dropout rate. And the percentage or improvement rate that we need to see increase so that we drop to a PL1 for EOC, English 1 and 2 is greater than 1.9%. For dropout rate, we need to improve by greater than 2.7%. You can see that dropout for emergent bilingual, for OSP, and for SPED are a common pattern across the three programs. As a result of that, we all get together to talk about dropout. So we don't look at it in isolation. We come together and look across our populations and work with our campuses specifically. So we have a report that we generate. We look at what campus is contributing to the performance level score. So if their scores are 2 or 3 for their campus, we bring the campuses in and we develop goals, strategies, and activities at the campus level. Special education, you can see for reading and math, we have improvement to make to get to a PL1. For reading, we need to improve by 10.7. For math, by 9. For STAR 3 through 8 science and social studies, we're a 3. We need to improve by 11.8 for science. For social studies, 19.4. For special education, algebra 1, we need to improve by 12.1. For special education, EOC 1 through 2, and you can see that EOC is hitting in the emergent bilingual area, and also special education for English 1 and 2. We need to improve by 24.8%. For least restrictive environment for our ages 3 through 5 with COVID, we saw a lot of students coming in ages 3 through 5 with significant challenges, greater than we've seen before. As a result of that, many of them require full-time special education and are not accessing the general education classroom. That's what this indicator is all about. The state wants to see those students included in general education, but when their challenges are significant and we're pulling them into special education, you see that percentage go down. And so we'll work over the next 2 or 3 years to improve that with strategies and activities. And then special ed dropout rate, although we improved, it is still a performance level 2, and we have 0.3% to improve there, and we'll be to a PL1. And then our total disciplinary removals, you saw that we improved pretty significantly in that indicator, but it's still a performance level 2, and we need to improve by 13% for that category. So, as I said before, every single program is monitored and reviewed by individuals in my department. We look at it by campus, we bring cases in, we respond with a root cause analysis. We look at it all the way down to the kid level. So we'll pick a kid, we'll dig into everything from their assessment to their grades, to their discipline, to their attendance, to their disability, to the services that they're receiving, and try to find out what's causing the problem. We go through a 5 why process. We decide what we can control and influence. We write strategies and activities, and then we monitor it throughout the year. For special education, we report to the state twice a year, and we rarely get any feedback other than keep doing what you're doing. And so in this PowerPoint presentation, these are hyperlinked. Not only do we do strategic support plans that are required by TEA, we also write our own continuous improvement plans, which are not required for each program area. And then we make sure that what we're doing is aligned to the district improvement plan so that we're all moving forward in the right direction or the same direction. And so, and I put SIPs, we have SIPs and SIPs and DIPs. I could have put some visuals to go with that, but they probably would have involved beverages or something. And so the last report that I'm required to share with you is our significant disproportionality report, otherwise known as 81 ways to be out of compliance. So out of 81 different indicators that we're responsible for, this report takes into account 6 eligibility categories for special education. So for students with autism, for students with specific learning disabilities, emotional disturbance, speech impairments, intellectual disabilities, and other health impairments, they break that out by race and ethnicity. And then they take a look at, are you overrepresented in that area, or could you be under? And so we hit one indicator this last year for our population of students who are white and have emotional disturbance. We have 38 students, and they have rated us as significantly disproportionate in that area. It's probably not that 38 students have been misidentified. They are probably truly students with emotional disturbance, but it could suggest that we're underrepresented for emotional disturbance and other race and ethnicity categories. And so creating strategies around this can be difficult, but we take a look at it at the student level and also evaluating it by the campus level of how many students they have that represent this specific category. If you are significantly disproportionate on any of these indicators for more than 3 years, then the state requires you to set aside 15% of your IDAV funds, which is a substantial amount of money. We've never been that. We work hard to stay. We've never gone to a year 2 with our significant disproportionality report, and I suspect we'll be okay next year. But that is how it works. That is how it works. And that is your results-driven accountability report.
That's great. I like the way you did the breakdown on this. It was simplified, simpler to understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Although the work is not simple.
Well, I
That's
know
for
that
sure.
and I get it, but
Yeah.
well, we have great people at the Hamline County, so thank you for all you do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
And
you.
your team.
Yeah, absolutely. They're rock stars. Our diagnosticians are rock stars. Our
I know.
speech language pathologists are rock stars.
Thanks,
all
guys.
of those people are what makes us stay in compliance.
Kami, I have a few questions, and
Yes.
again, this is just for my own ignorance. First off, congratulations on the increases for the students. That's really awesome that y'all done that. Secondly, like when I look at that, I just wonder, do we monitor it before the end of the year? Like, do you know how you're tracking, like,
Oh, yeah.
throughout the year? So,
Yes.
like, there's no surprises?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you kind of touched on probably ramifications for, if we don't do what we need to do. So obviously, we're cognizant of that. But great job, and hopefully we'll continue to increase. 24.8% is a lot of an increase for
It is.
for a group. Yeah.
It is, and our goals are not written at the level of increasing to that.
Sure, sure.
Our milestones, our benchmarks are smaller so that they're achievable, but that's our ultimate goal at the end of the day.
So when you say you monitor, like as the year goes on, like do you do that quarterly, monthly?
We have quarterly updates.
Okay, all
And
right,
so
so we'll
we,
be coming soon.
we pull back in campus administrators, our team, and we look over the indicators, and we pull in all of our reports to see where we're falling. Yes, sir.
Okay, Kami, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Kami.
it. Okay, the next item on our workshop agenda is middle school math. Kim Callison is going to come up and kick this off. She's Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Thank you, Kim, for being here today.
Morning.
Morning.
All right.
It's so long, so I just go.
Good morning, Board of Trustees. I am here today to talk about our progress in middle school math. As you might recall from your last workshop date, one of the progress measures that we look at every year after STAR is 8th grade math. And that was an area that last year we did not see the same progress. We didn't meet our yearly goal. Our goal for this year is that by June of 2023, that we will have 31% of our 8th graders at the meets level in math. And last year, we dropped back a little bit to 14%. And so what I want to talk to you today about and share with you are just some of the successes that we are seeing right now, looking at not only 8th grade math, but also 6th and 7th grade math. And then, of course, areas of opportunity that we are taking advantage of for this school year. Looking historically at our data, there are a lot of lines on this graph. The red lines are the state averages for approaches, meets, and masters. So that top line is the state approaches. The blue line is LISD approaches. Then we have the state meets, and then the yellow line is LISD meets. The red line at the bottom is state masters, and then the very bottom line is actually LISD masters. I know it says approaches, but it is masters. And so what you can see historically from 2016 to 2022 is that prior to COVID, we were seeing gains in mathematics, as was the state. We were moving in a trajectory that was up. Ours was, particularly at the approaches level, was moving even a little bit more so than the state. When we missed the year of 2020, or the spring of 2020, you can see a definite decrease at both the LISD level and the state level in mathematics. So that was seen a significant drop in 2021 when we came back. What you'll notice is that 2021 and 2022, we've seen an upward trajectory in our approaches level, but we have not seen that in our meets and our masters. And so we're working on the reasons for that. Of significance is the difference between the state meets level and LISD's meets level last year. We see a bigger gap. We see us going in a trajectory that is not the direction we want to go. So we have put some things in place this year, and I'm going to talk some about it, and then I've brought Amador Vasquez, our math coordinator, with us. He's also going to share what we've put in place, not only at 8th grade, but also at 6th and 7th to kind of repair this damage. In looking at our STAR results from last year, this is a graph that will show you 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. 6th grade is in blue, 7th grade is in red, and 8th grade is gray. What you will notice, of course, is that the approaches level, we had 3/4 of our 6th graders that were approaches. As we move into meets, we dropped to 34%, And then masters, 12% for 6th grade. You can see the same thing. I'll give you a minute to look at that for 7th and 8th.
Kim, would you mind, just so that we're making this clear, 8th grade students who are in Algebra 1, this is not reflective of their...
Yes, thank you for saying that. It was on a little bit later in my slides, but I'm going to talk about it right now because it's important. No, in 8th grade, LISD does choose to have our some of our 8th graders who have taken the advanced courses in 6th and 7th will take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And we do that because we want them to take those advanced level mathematics courses at high school. So while 6th and 7th grade includes all students, 8th grade includes 2/3 of our students. We have about 36% of our students in 8th grade that take Algebra 1. So that does definitely affect our data, and it also affects the conversation that we have with campuses.
I think in the past we've talked about selection bias, due to students taking Algebra 1, but it's good to see that more are approaching. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what's interesting is when we go back and we look at that state data, many districts in the state, across the state, do not do the same thing that we do with 8th grade. So that is one reason that we are seeing that we are below the state, is because we are only looking at our on-level kids because our advanced kids are taking that algebra course.
Is there a way to merge that data to kind of give us a better understanding of where I know we don't necessarily want to because we want to keep the algebra kids, but it doesn't look great currently.
What we do is we'll look at it side by side. The test is so different, it's hard to merge that data together. Even the standard for passing or approaching meets and masters is different between the two tests, between 8th grade and Algebra 1. But we are going to look at them side by side here in just a second for our district assessment. So what I've done is I've looked at and pulled data for the 9 weeks assessments. We've had 2 9 weeks assessments so far, one in October, one in December. Our third 9 weeks assessment, which we use our benchmark so they have a full release test, actually the window finishes tomorrow. So I'll be back after spring break and we'll talk about the third 9 weeks. What you see here is we have pulled that data apart, Jason, so you can see on the left-hand side is our on-level math, and on the right-hand side are our advanced students. And you can see that obviously we are seeing more success and more growth with our advanced students. So looking at that meets category, you can see that our 6th graders, we are seeing growth from the first 9 weeks to the second 9 weeks, but there is a significant difference between our on-level kids and our advanced kids. One thing to note too, in 6th and 7th grade advanced mathematics, that is a combined curriculum. So they are getting standards for both 6th and 7th in 6th grade and 7th and 8th in 7th grade. This is our 7th grade scores. So you can see that once again on the left-hand side is our on-level. We grew from 6% meets to 12% meets, and then our advanced kids grew from 43% to 61% at that meets category. Our approaches, as you pointed out, Chris, just a moment ago, our approaches looks good with our advanced kids. We've got to get all of our kids there.
Yeah.
And then here is the delineation of our 8th grade and our Algebra 1. And once again, we're growing from first 9 weeks to second 9 weeks. So our meets for our on-level kids went from 13% to 23%. And for our Algebra 1 students, we went from 51 to 67 in that meets category.
When you say we have about a third of students that are in Algebra 1 compared to obviously the other 66% that are not, do we attribute better scores and better approaching standards to the fact that it's a smaller class maybe?
Not necessarily smaller class. What happens traditionally, I will say, is that our more veteran teachers end up teaching some of those advanced classes, and that definitely affects the scoring as well. One of the things to note too with middle school is we currently have 12 adjunct teachers that are teaching in middle school math. So we have a lot of turnover at middle school. So that requires us to provide a lot of additional training, and it kind of has led us to my next slide, which is our curriculum that we put in place this year. And this was as a result of seeing not only the scores being lagging behind the state, but also seeing the need for a consistent delivery of content with all of our teachers. So we have moved to Carnegie Learning, which is our high quality instructional material. It is a program that aligns and makes sure that all of our texts are taught and fully covered. It is aligned to best practices, so it does give a lot of guidance to our brand new teachers. There are supports for teachers, and there is progress monitoring throughout, and there's an opportunity to differentiate for all of our different students, for special education, our English learners, as well as our gifted kids. And so this curriculum we've put in place, this was as a result of a committee of teachers and coaches and principals that came together last year and determined the need for something that was more consistent. I'm going to let Amador talk a little bit about implementation of Carnegie and other supports that we've put in place.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So as Kim stated, we implemented Carnegie Learning, which is a high quality instructional material. And what Carnegie does is it brings the conceptual and the procedural of mathematics together. And so in order to understand mathematics at a high level, you have to understand it conceptually and then be able to transition into the procedural. And so Carnegie provides that and provides, like Kim said, full coverage of the text. It's aligned in best practices. It supports all learners, including students with disabilities. Enables frequent progress monitoring, and of course, it includes support for our teachers. The 12 adjuncts that we have are all over the district in middle school. Plus, we also have 5 brand new teachers. So basically 17 new teachers that are in the classroom right now that are teaching middle school math. So what does HQM allow? So they spend less time building lessons because it's not really a scripted curriculum, but it does guide teachers on how to teach the lessons. They don't have to search on the internet for materials and activities like on teacher pay teachers or those kind of things. It modifies lesson and classroom materials. But what it does do, it differentiates lessons and activities for all learners. And so it provides activities for teachers to be able to engage students in the mathematics. It analyzes and acting on student progress data, and it also customizes materials to fit the unique teaching styles. So we're not asking teachers to follow a script. We want teachers to take this curriculum and make it their own. Now, for an experienced teacher, that's going to be a lot easier than for an inexperienced teacher. And so for the adjuncts, this is actually great for them because they get to see how I should teach it, and as I get better at it, then I can make it my own. So also what we're doing is we've developed a math instructional framework. I think last year or the year before we came up with a literacy framework, and so we did the exact same thing with mathematics. So what this framework provides is a guide, and what we're saying is this is how we should teach mathematics in the school district. We had a committee of over, oh my God. Okay. We had a committee of over, actually 50 to 60 people come together, and we had Region 17 come in and train us on what they call the ARBIs, and which is a way to teach mathematics. And then we developed this instructional framework. It wasn't done by me or Kim or just a few of us. It was all inclusive across the district. So we had people from all over the district come together and say, okay, this is the way we should teach mathematics in the LISC. It doesn't matter what curriculum we use, doesn't matter what program we use, this is the way we should do it. And that's going to be rolled out next year. So current action steps. my team, our district level coaches, go out and work with teachers. In order to really understand Carnegie, you have to internalize the lessons. And what that means is you take the lesson, you completely take it apart, you internalize it, you ask yourself some questions, you understand the mathematics. That sometimes is difficult for teachers because we're so used to just reading the text, grabbing a worksheet, and handing it to the kids. And so we're asking teachers to change their way of thinking a little bit. So what my team has done is they have internalized the lessons, and then they're going out and meeting with teachers in PLCs, making sure and teaching them how to internalize the lessons. They've done a tremendous job, and I think teachers across the district have done a tremendous job in also internalizing the lessons. I meet with the principals every 3 weeks. We do walks. We check classrooms to see how the instruction is going. Now, I can't honestly say that we're implementing it 100%. We're using Carnegie where it fits, and that's okay, because anytime you implement any new curriculum, you've got to take bits and pieces of it that work, and then as you continue to build, you build in inserting more of it. We have data review meetings. We also contracted with Carnegie and brought in one of their Carnegie coaches. He came in for CFS and talked to all of our teachers on February 20th. Then he came in February 27th and 28th and met with 4 of our schools. He's coming back March 30th and April 4th to meet with the rest of our schools. And what he did is he walked into the classrooms, talked to the teachers, talked about implementation, and we've offered some ideas on how to maybe change the curriculum a little bit. We've had data review meetings, and then we also have a check-in by the executive team, and I believe it's Mystique, Kim, and the executives. They go to the campuses and they do a check-in with principals and teachers.
So while we've got lots of supports in place and continue to build that as teachers and principals kind of give us feedback on what they need, you can see we have we've had some areas of growth, but we absolutely have some additional challenges ahead, and we're ready to take those on. So, do y'all have any questions for us?
Definitely do.
Yes, sir.
Because I got to listen to think of some of this the other day in a different area. And so, I know that it's probably a bit cumbersome, as you alluded to, with the fact that, like, teachers adopting it, right? Like, it's difficult to change the way you've been doing things. So,
yes.
Hopefully that's been taken into consideration. It sounds like you're being fairly malleable with regard to who adopts it, who doesn't, where you think it might work best. Secondly, really, my bigger concern is, as we move into subsequent years of how schools are being evaluated, and we know the bar's kind of being moved, and we can anticipate that it might not look the best in the public, even though we're still improving and getting better. What I've seen in other therapeutic areas or educational areas with regard to this is when you implement something new, sometimes the scores go down initially, right? And I don't know if that's what you normally see. So I'd like to know how you're anticipating that, how you're trying to get out in front of that. And then, of course, just to commend you for the work that you've done, because we have to stay ahead of things, right? So I think y'all should be commended for that, because it's hard to make change, but we need to make it right. So.
Right. And I think that there certainly could be an implementation dip. What we're seeing on our assessment so far is progress, and we're moving in the right trajectory. I'm not going to be able to say that word. Trajectory. Thank you. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. We are working consistently with the campuses. And so as we see any hiccups, as we see maybe a dip, they not only do the 9-week assessments, but the campuses built into Carnegie are unit assessments, what they call topic and mid-topic assessments. We're also looking at those and kind of modifying them. They're pretty long. They don't look exactly like STAR, so we're modifying those. And we actually have a plan to work with teachers this summer to come up with some checkpoints along the way that do look a little bit more like STAR, and that will help us gauge kind of where we're at. Any other questions?
Thank you both
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kim.
for the
Thank you,
information. Appreciate your time today. All right. Next on this workshop agenda, Aramark, Ms. Lori Johnson. She's the district manager for Aramark. Welcome to the podium. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully I won't get a blackout on the screen. Thank y'all so much for having me today to kind of share some of the things that we've been working on this year and some of the things that we have to come. We've definitely had an unprecedented semester with the industry challenges that food service all over the nation, especially in our area as well, has experienced with supply chain challenges and, of course, food cost inflation. So I know we all noticed going to the grocery store how much more it costs a family for a dozen eggs, but when you serve as many meals as we do, that inflation is really difficult to manage through and make sure that we're agile to adjust as we need to, so we can make sure we get the food we need to feed our kids and can afford to do so. In the past year, over 87% of our operators have experienced supply chain challenges. So a lot of times we have trouble getting enough of some products to get in, and we'll have a lot of substitutions that we deal with, and this is something that makes us make menu adjustments sometimes as often as bi-weekly as we see different product challenges. Also, one of the things that the USDA has done is they have offered some supply chain assistance funds to recognize the fact that food cost inflation is so high. And so the district this year has received $739,000 in the supply chain assistance funds to help offset some of the inflation. Some of the things that we'll be doing with those funds is procure local milk directly, some procurement of fresh produce, and meal rate adjustment that the TDA has allowed to help compensate for that price change. Some other labor challenges has been another industry issue that we've had, that we've combated high turnover, and we have really been excited this year. We got to do some retention bonuses for our staff, so I can share some figures a little later on how we use some bonuses to help them deal with the difficulty of expensive items, and then also just to keep them here and working and doing what they do best. And then just using recruiting and new compensation strategies that I'll share later. The other thing that's coming up that I want to share and even provide a link where y'all could give some feedback is, as you know, we have a lot of meal pattern compliance regulations that we have to meet each day as we put our meal and menu together. And they are getting ready to do more restrictions to sodium, to calories, sugar limits, which will be new. So right now we're in a period with the USDA where they've announced what those changes are going to be and when the target dates are, and they're accepting feedback. So there's been quite a lot of feedback. Anytime you continue to change sodium especially, which I think I've shared before, the flavor of the food's impacted and it affects how many kids want to participate. And so they're actually proposing an additional reduction to sodium at 10% each year when this takes place. And then also we currently serve over 50% of our grains have to be whole grains, and they're proposing that be increased to 80%. So it's, you know, the difference of how long the bread shelf life is, because the whole grain doesn't last as long, and then the flavor and then the dryness of it is increased with some of the whole grain requirements. So those are some of the things that we have on the horizon that we may need to combat some strategies for as well. And I put in the packet a link where y'all could go and read through some of the guidelines and then make suggestions or share concerns that you may have as well. They do listen to the public voice on that. So I was going to share here our operating priorities for this year for 2022-23 is to still stay as a culinary innovator with the district through things like our LBX truck that you enjoyed for breakfast this morning, our Chef Community Council events, which we did some recognition around and have continued to do events this year, and then partnership with the ATC with our culinary students, placing forth in a culinary competition and getting to actually work on the food truck as well. So, and then some cultural connectors, our social media channels and our followers. We started a page last year and we're up to almost 1,000 followers right now. And so we've had a lot of good connections with students and their families through those web pages. We have some new technology with an A show, which will have an educational video for elementary age students and then some other new brands come into middle school and high school. And then being imaginative partners through how we treat our employees, making sure that they're the heart of what we do, and that we have recognition for them and a platform, and working on food waste and community awareness with hunger as well. So I put a recap of how many meals we've served to date. This is through February, so over 3.6 million meals. And then I put a breakdown of how many meals in each meal part that we serve there. So if y'all notice the dinner program, those numbers tend to go up every year. And that's something that we started in 2018 with one campus. So it's good to see that that program is working for the district.
How many campuses do we have dinner?
We have 24 able to serve with applications, but right now we have about 15 that are actually serving. It changes throughout the year. They'll do more in the fall, and then as we go into STAR testing, we'll see a lot of them start to do some Saturday schools that we can do meals for, and then start dinner programs as well. So we do the applications at the beginning of the year and keep them open so that if they want to do it, it's a pretty seamless transition to add the meals. But out of 46 to have almost half is a long way from the first one with Harwell Elementary in 2018 for sure. So.
And that's families too, right? Can families come?
No,
to
it's
that?
just the student still. Okay. It's any enrolled student, and then there has to be open enrichment, which can be anything from study hall to tutorials, okay. But it has to be open to all students there. So we also did a survey last year and got results on what students like, and I kind of captured, what students say they like the best for breakfast is always sweet things. Teachers want protein-enriched breakfasts, which we do add protein to all our breakfast, but they always want the sweet breakfast. And we put some of our menu items that address some of that feedback. Fast food items for lunch, which we know how quick our society likes to eat. So some things that we've done this year, walking tacos were a huge success, where we just basically took our nacho concept and put it in the pouch, and very concession type fare that they really enjoyed. Chicken and waffles has been a really big hit this year, and a triple decker sun butter sandwich. Any of those convenience items that they can grab at lunch in a hurry. And then they always are drawn to salty and sweet snacks as well. So we do serve quite a bit of snacks at our schools, some through a program, and then just some for the pre-K and kinders, and those are some of our snack items there. We also introduce limited time offers and different themed events to keep from menu fatigue from happening. So we have lots of cultural favorites, and then we'll do like Tater Tot Day, which is coming up soon, where we're going to do like a pizza tater tot, and different ideas like that will attract students' attention to the program. Breakfast. There's been so many studies on breakfast. So as you saw on our breakfast numbers, we are sitting at, let me flip back just a little bit, 1.2 million breakfast. So students that eat breakfast every day there's proven research that they score 31.32 points higher in their academic performance. Show that breakfast affects not only the children's nutritional stats, but also students' cognitive development, and it can also help reduce absenteeism. And so our breakfast program is something that we're always striving to improve upon. And we have a really good elementary breakfast participation. So it's interesting to me, as students get older, they quit eating breakfast. So I don't know if they enjoy the sleep more, or if it's just not cool to eat breakfast. So one of the things that we're really working on is our middle school breakfast participation. So when y'all went out to the food truck this morning, we had that cart. That's one of our new innovations, where it's right now the kids that eat breakfast in the classroom in elementary use the same cart in middle school that they used in elementary. So we thought if we put some new marketing, a little bit more mature appearance, that it might attract more students to the program.
Kind of a grab and go. You just can walk by and just grab something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they can they choose from 5 items. Mm-hmm. Today I had just something simple that wouldn't be hot and would be wasted. But we usually have a hot entree most days with the grain and milk and juice represented with a fresh fruit item as well. So changing that delivery method, we'll hope will help inspire more middle school kids to eat that breakfast and score higher on tests for sure.
Get him out of math department.
We'll have to do some kind of fun math breakfast. So, and then our after-school snacks and dinner meals, around 45,000 that we've had there. And I think I had already answered the question, but we have ability to serve at 24 campuses. And we do a combination of hot meals. We started out really just wanting to do the hot meals because we wanted to send students home with that warm, nutritious meal. But sometimes when it needs to be more portable, the schools will ask for cold sandwiches. So we will do that as well, whatever gets them the nutrition they need before their day is over. And then we have technology. So, students live with their phone in their hands. So trying to reach out to students with technology. I shared our Facebook, but our website that has our menus on it is accessible with an app. And what's really cool is you can actually touch on the menu item at any campus, and it shows you full nutrition, full calories, all the ingredients. It's just at fingertips of students and their families to access. It helps us also accommodate allergies as we need to in the campuses. The other thing that we started this year, I think it's been very successful, is the elementary students pre-order their lunch meal. They get to choose between choice 1, 2, or 3. There's always been teachers that make different ways for them to share the menu items that day and then place their order. And so we standardized that with a Google sheet this year, and we actually put pictures of our food so the kid could actually see, because sometimes the name of the menu, an elementary student may not really understand what they're getting, and we don't want any tears when they find out chicken tenders is not the same as a chicken dipper, so it's more of an Asian food choice. So at that point, we put these pictures on a Google sheet, and then they can place their order through that document. And then connecting to our culture, I just did a little splash of some photos. This is our new middle school brand that we're going to install in our middle school cafeterias. And then the ACE show is really fun. These are little videos. Our little mascot is a fox named Ace, which really stands for Aramark Culinary Excellence, but we call him Ace, and he has little shows where he talks about health and wellness tips, healthy eating, exercise. And we've actually linked this to the elementary picture menus now. So if they have some downtime in class and they want to show a video, they can show that video. And then Rally, that was a huge success for us. We did those last year, and I'm sure y'all have probably seen some of those at Monterey. We have it at all 5 high schools. We have the new Rally brand. That's attracted a lot of success and actually some national recognition within Aramark. Our Rally Cafes are known as the flagship of Rally Cafes, and we have people come to see them frequently. And then we actually were nominated for food service management, and I'll let y'all know how that turns out. So for best concept of the year. Lastly, we were going to talk about how we can be imaginative partners and continue some of the things that we've done. So we put some notes in here about our employee training around food waste. And then just like people skills in general, coaching. We have managers that have worked their way up from, they've been with us 20 years, and how they can relate to their employees and keep that engaged work environment. It's a hard job, and they've had a lot of challenges as well through COVID, and just keeping them engaged and where it's a tight-knit family at their different campuses. We do some monthly engagement activities. I put some pictures there at the top of when we disguised a pumpkin and gave away an award, and just different things they can do together to recognize each other and trust each other to have a cohesive work environment. And then recruitment strategies, our compensation and benefits, and then succession planning. We've kind of realized as our employees have worked for us for a long time, when they retire, we're having a lot of trouble finding candidates in that kitchen manager role. It's a lot of responsibility. So this year we tried a strategy to increase that pay rate for that role to try to attract that more experienced employee and try to get some new soon-to-be 20-year employees in their spots as we lose some of our senior candidates. I also shared some community items that we've done. So our leftover plates, we do take those to Salvation Army. Different campuses, as they have leftover food, will take it there. And we really tried to get it right at the beginning and use our numbers and have as little waste as possible, especially with food costs the way it is. But we do have that option. We also have a local farmer that takes waste from produce and scraps that he'll use for composting and some livestock. And then I had to share this picture of Arna. She, back before COVID, we had a new share table platform where kids could take their leftover food that they didn't want to eat and share it with a student that may want to eat it. And when COVID happened, the fear of that open food items was not something that was well received. Arna, one of our Lubbock High students, took the initiative to try to start that back. So we gave her some of our ideas that we had put together for share table with policy, procedure, and food safety. She had someone donate a refrigerator, and she's trying to make that work one lunch at a time there.
Nice.
She said she went to India for a trip, and she saw how many hungry people there were, and she just knew that they wasted so much food and wanted to do something about it. So she's a really passionate young lady.
Great.
And then some of our things that we did too, from a donation standpoint, we had 1,000 food boxes that the district gave to families for this year was the first time that we didn't have waivers to feed students meals throughout the breaks. And those are the times that, you know, that hungry student that comes back after spring break is sometimes really sad to face. So those food boxes really helped a gap. This year we had some of the snow days, and then we had the week at Thanksgiving and Christmas where we distributed. If you'll notice me in my turkey hat at Thanksgiving there. So, but we really enjoy getting to connect with families and help supplement a full week of groceries for a family of 4. Also shared that we ranked 6 in all of Texas for overall food service program as it relates to food accessibility. And then our Lone Star Chef competition, there's a picture of Abby and team there that competed with their waffle popper sandwich that they won 4th place at. Share. And then I was going to share the amounts on some of our employees, just continuing to try to hire the best talent that we can to sustain the program. We did give over $160,000 in retention bonuses in January, so that was a huge blessing. 3.5% pay increase this year. And then I talked about the weighted starting wage for kitchen managers. We also have a new staff recruiter that is a full-time employee that works on moving people through the system and trying to continue to use Indeed and some other sources for new candidates. And then a new human resource director that had large industry experience with cargo that we brought on this year. And she's been here about a month and a half, and she's doing really good things. So. And then we have job fairs. Actually, we're going to be at the Lubbock ISD job fair. And then we have Texas Tech RIM, where we really help source graduates into different Airmark careers, maybe not here, but other places. And sometimes they'll intern here as well. And then our partnership with the VTC, we have 8 VTC students right now that work for us. And that's super rewarding. I think we have 2 in training right now as well. And then just wanted to close with how we have invested our surplus funds so that we can share how we've enhanced the future of our program. So our dining spaces, Rally Cafe is completed, Lunch Pad is soon to come, Good Vibes is the cart I shared, and then there's some new ACE graphics that will probably fall into next year. And then we set out in 2018, I believe it was, to renovate 20 kitchens in 5 years. And then COVID happened. But if you look at the list, I think we're already up to 13 or 14. And so we've still really moved forward with that plan. And I've put the schools that are targeted up next. And then this year, before the year ends, we will start McWhorter and Evans, and then do the pre-kitchen as well. Food quality, the meal rate adjustments I talked about. Chef Community Council, my next Chef Community Council event is April the 12th at Talkington. And then our local products challenge for Farm Fresh Fridays is coming up soon. and then our people with the retention bonus. And then we're still looking at doing another small mid-year adjustment to their hourly wage this year if we can manage to put that into our budget. Do you have any questions?
A quick question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I missed this or not, but did you mention anything about diabetics, any of our students that are diabetics?
We have a lot of diabetics, and we do, we have carb counts on the website, and then we have a dietitian on staff that works with the nurses if they have any questions about how we can accommodate those.
When you're talking about actually the parents can get on and choose or see what you guys have to offer, and I think that's great for our students that are diabetics so that they can talk to the nurse or
Yeah,
their
I think
staff.
one of the areas too we need to focus on that's hard was we have those holiday meals. We try in advance to make sure all that is
Right.
shared. But with the supply chain challenges, that's added another level of information that we have to communicate. So sometimes what's on there may not be what we actually got to serve that day. And so just like making sure that we have an open channel to the nurses as they have those concerns when they're students, because they're so in tune to their students, and it's a good partnership between them and our dietitian.
That's great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Those are awesome.
Do you know when the government or the state will finalize their decisions? As you said, right now there's feedback going on.
They said that the comments would be taken through the 17th of April.
Okay.
But the targeted date is not until 2024 for that first 10% sodium. So they basically will review all the comments and then make a decision. It tends to be administration based. So a lot of this first wave in 2024 and 25 is based on what they were going to implement at the end of the last act that we were under. It was supposed to be the year 5 adjustments, and then the administration that was in the office at that time pushed a pause on implementing that last round of restrictions. And so now we're kind of starting back up with that again. But the sugar was a bit of surprise. It'll affect flavored milk for elementary students, which sometimes that chocolate's the difference in if the student's going to drink the milk.
Yeah.
So,
Milk, I mean.
and there's also a lot of studies that the chocolate milk for athletes is better for their bodies anyway. So I hate to see that go away. But the secondary milk flavoring won't be impacted by the sugar. But some of the grain-based items that we serve at breakfast that they tend to like will be.
So do you think there's going to be a lot of waste?
It happens.
It
yeah.
happens already.
And we just have to continue to try to find ways to where we can do things that they'll take more favorably.
Right. Yet be creative, and you are that. So thank you.
Try.
And congratulations on the state recognition.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
good.
it's good.
It's very proud of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Thank
much.
you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so our last item on the workshop agenda. Providing
Not
some-
least.
Maybe it is least.
Well, wait till you see it.
Yeah, property insurance renewal update, and I will call Lisa Thompson, who is our Executive Director of Payroll and Risk Management, to the podium. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Good morning, Board of Trustees, Dr. Rolo. It is time for our annual renewal. Our property insurance renews April 1st. We've been working with the Gallagher representatives here for quite some time, over a number of years, and certainly over the last few months, going through what it looks like for this upcoming year and the particular challenges that we're all facing, especially in the state of Texas. So thankful that Charlie Hare is here, Brian Sexton and Scott Riddle here with Gallagher, and Charlie is going to give a presentation, an overview, and feel free to ask him questions. Mr. Ratliff and Mr. Curry have been a part of that discussion for quite some time, so turn it over to Mr. Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah, as Charlie comes up, I'll just make the comment that we did bring a presentation or some information to our facilities, our operations employee engagement committee, and at their request, this is why we're bringing this information to you all as a full workshop item. So that's the premise behind it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
Charlie.
that, Rick. Message today is a difficult one to have to deliver, and it involves a lot of factors that are going to contribute to this. And one of the reasons we wanted to be here today is to explain to you what is going on in the marketplace, exactly why we're dealing with the challenges that we are dealing with, and arm you all with enough information to make best informed decision on behalf of Lubbock Independent School Districts. So I'm going to do a lot of talking today. A lot of it's going to be very high level. I'm trying to dumb it down as much as possible, but I would encourage you to try and make this as transactional as possible, because this is one, again, that is going to be a difficult message to have to deliver. I will jump in by just first introducing myself, as Rick and Lisa mentioned. My name is Charlie Hare. I'm Gallagher's Regional Director for our Public Entity and Scholastic Practice Group. Oversee a 6-state region, obviously the largest of that being the state of Texas. And we, as a corporation, second largest practice group in the entire organization is our public entity practice. We are the largest public entity broker in the United States. Roughly about 103 school district, college and university clients in the state of Texas. So we think we know this space relatively well. I'll start with the marketplace. As you can see on the screen before you, 2022 was extremely challenging and difficult. All over the news. I don't think it comes as any surprise. It was really driven by Hurricane Ian. This was the fifth year in a row, or fifth of the last 6 years, where we have exceeded over $100 billion in the United States worth of industry losses. For some historical perspective, on the bottom line there, you can see that black line. Not only are we tracking to insurable events greater than 10 in terms of the overall size and quantity being $1 billion plus, but we're also tracking from an industry loss standpoint to pretty much have doubled the industry average for 5 of the last 6 years. This year, likely going to triple, if not quadruple, as a result of Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian is projected to be a $74 billion loss to the industry. For historical perspective, in 2018, the industry as a whole wanted to average or collected enough money to withstand $60 billion worth of losses. So one storm has kind of put us over that average, although as we all have kind of experienced in the last 5 years, costs have increased dramatically as a result of industry factors, losses, particularly in the state of Texas. Wind is blowing harder, hail is falling harder, hail is bigger, and obviously the exposure to the coast kind of makes Texas that unique geographical footprint, which obviously is going to drive rates higher here than in most states across the country. The only other 2 states I would say that, let's be thankful we're not talking about today are the state of Florida and the state of Louisiana. Kind of put in perspective the numbers. That purple line you'll see at the top, adjusted for inflation, that is the total quantity of loss in the year of 2005. That is, 2017. That is driven by Harvey, Irma, and Maria, the storms. If you jump down 2 to the red line, you can see that the third largest loss year in the history of the industry is tracking to be 2022. Again, billion-dollar events, as we call them, hailstorms that roll through Dallas, West Texas hailstorms, industry events on the coast. Those account for about 85% of the losses in the industry on a particular given year. The issue has been that those billion-dollar events, in terms of the overall quantity and numbers, have ticked up quite a bit in the last 5 years. I'm not going to sit here and call it anything other than weather patterns are seemingly changing, and the industry is having to adjust accordingly for those from a price and I would call it terms and conditions standpoint. We often talk about the big losses that really make the needle move in the industry being the hurricanes, although the green boxes are what we're going to focus on this slide. The green boxes indicate not only the number of billion-dollar events, but the overall quantity of size in terms of the losses that the industry experiences. And as you can see there from a year-over-year perspective, green is what we call severe convective storm, what we in the industry call that tornado, wind, and hail. That is driving the boat, which is why there's so much scrutiny in the Midwest, kind of in that tornado alley around this exposure, because it's very difficult for the insurance companies to what I would call model, which means that there's not a lot of historical data to support what is happening over the last 5 years, unlike the hurricane season, where it's very easy for them to look back and kind of predict, based on weather patterns and magnitude, what the industry is going to experience that year. Cross your fingers. This year is projected to be a lighter hurricane season. It only really does take 1 year to kind of move the needle in the industry, so we're all hoping that this is finally the year that maybe starts to kind of level off the bell curve in terms of the increases that we've been experiencing. We were very fortunate as an organization to procure the third largest reinsurance brokerage firm in the world. It was actually formerly called Willis Re, now Gallagher Re. That transaction happened in the December month of 2021. Why that's so important gives us a look under the hood as to what the insurance companies are going to do before they actually make decisions, because that team actually negotiates the insurance behind the insurance companies, as we like to refer to it as reinsurance. On this graph, you will see 2005 was always pegged, 2005, 2006 was always pegged as the worst year in the history of reinsurance. We will exceed that in 2023. So capacity, the amount of insurance out there has gone down, rates are increasing, deductibles are increasing as a result of that. These are some factors that insurance companies had control over in years prior. They really don't have control over it going forward because of the dictation behind the scenes as to what they're going to be subject to. They can only offer what their reinsurance companies tell them they're able to. That has become a very difficult situation as we approach 2023 and probably likely in the couple years in the foreseeable future to come. Gallagher Re, for the last couple years, has afforded us the ability to kind of see behind the scenes in the very early part of 2023 what the year is going to project out and look like. I circled the bottom to kind of indicate what in the United States we are looking at in terms of rate movement. Rate movement means how much are premiums going to increase based on conditions that existed in the prior year. So I will start by focusing on the 25% number. The 25% means that's pretty much the starting point. 25% is going to be the increase in cost in the year of 2023. Number of factors, obviously losses that are contributing to that, geographical location. School districts are going to tend to be on the higher side of that because we're talking about billions of dollars of property within square miles, so one singular storm tends to hit quite a bit of value, so to speak. Shifting gears to the right side of that circle, loss-affected business is going to obviously then creep up. When I say loss-affected business, what I mean by that is obviously those that have experienced losses in the past, windstorms, tornado losses, hailstorms. Obviously, this school district is very familiar with the hail exposure over the last number of years. When an insurance company has to showcase their portfolio to their reinsurance companies, they have to highlight the loss activity within their portfolio. So right now what we are seeing is insurance companies try to shed that to be more profitable and be more attractive to reinsurance companies, which is why on the back end of what they are showcasing, if they are choosing to retain that loss history on their books, they have to charge for that significantly. There is a greater cost of capital to the reinsurance world in 2023 versus the years prior. So insurance industry is not great. We are delivering bad news every single day. In fact, it feels like we've been doing this for the last 5 years, and unfortunately, just being fully transparent, I don't think there is really any end in sight until something moves the needle like a good year. Again, we're hoping that 2023 brings that. So shifting gears to Lubbock Independent School Districts, let's kind of back into what I would call our brokerage team's narrative. What do we think is going to happen at this upcoming renewal? We're starting to see it come into light this week. Next week will be really the week that does allow us to kind of forecast out and project what exactly this is going to look like, with obviously it being trued up there shortly after either the middle of next week or the following, early the following week. As far as business is concerned, Texas school districts prior to 2018 bought insurance from what we would call the retail market. That is the market that I, as your insurance broker, can approach on a direct basis. And we like to joke about and say those are the insurance companies that sponsor the big golf events. So Chubb, Travelers, Hartford, some of the bigger names that you would see in the commercials. In 2018, the market shifted. And the market shifted away from those companies offering $500 to $1 billion worth of insurance to school districts, particularly in the state of Texas and other industry classifications of business, to then saying, we're only going to take a sliver of the pie. The way to procure that type of insurance is through the wholesale brokerage market, as we call it, the excess and surplus market. So there was a gigantic shift away from retail into wholesale. As a result, the procurement of that insurance isn't one big brick. It actually kind of looks like a Tetris puzzle. So everybody's taking a little bit of sliver. It requires us to go to some unique factors within the industry to try and procure that insurance. Right now, we're talking with companies in Canada, companies in Bermuda, companies in London, overseas, in addition to obviously those in the United States, to try and find enough capacity at a competitive price to put those programs together. The issue we're seeing in 2023 is the retail market is again cutting back. So there's more entrance into the retail space, to the wholesale space, which is making the competition for business very difficult as a result of losses. It makes your accounts and your attraction to the marketplace a little bit more difficult as well. So we're trying to rely on some key relationships to drive business towards Lubbock Independent School Districts to procure policies that are as a reasonable cost. I say reasonable. Obviously, the costs we're going to talk about here shortly are not very reasonable, but unfortunately, that's kind of the situation that we are in. So when I say flow becoming more attractive, reinsurance companies are now also dictating that insurance companies can't offer as much capacity. So what used to be, let's call it 100% last year, is trending to be more like 80, 90%. So what they're doing is they're evaluating where their profitability is on their book, and they're shedding what they're not profitable on. Unfortunately, in the situation of what Lubbock Independent School Districts is, that it's not profitable. So we have reduced the amount of markets that we are able to actually have conversations with, which is making pricing very difficult. Tightening the terms and conditions, I'll just come out and say it. Texas is kind of under scrutiny from a deductible standpoint because of the loss activity. So we're really seeing a push, not only on the coast, but up in, I would call it, the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area to the western part of the state in deductibles. You will experience that this year. Wind and hail deductibles have gone to percentage bases. That has happened over the last number of years. We are kind of at that moment now where insurance companies are dictating those levels of deductibles. They're not allowing you to price for the risk that you would like to assume or not assume. We are going to see a wind and hail deductible this year on the renewal of 5%, which means 5% of the affected value of the buildings in any particular claim. I don't want it to be misconstrued that it's 5% of the loss, because that is not true. So as you can imagine, hailstorm that hits, let's call it $500 million worth of property at 5%, we're talking about a catastrophically large deductible. And then the biggest topic in the industry outside of actually the rate movement is the valuations. So insurance companies used to grant leeway for valuations, cost per square foot metrics on specific properties. There is zero leeway 2023. So if those cost per square foot metrics don't match their internal system, not only requirements, but projections of those. They take your submission to the marketplace, they set it aside, they move on to the next one. That's kind of the first checkpoint to get to the negotiation phase. There was a significant increase in the valuations for LISD properties this year. I can tell you that 90% of the market sees that and deems that to be increased cost. If you get within a tolerance window, the insurance companies are saying, okay, I will quote you, but now you're leaving the valuation perspective in my hands, and I get to charge for that. LISD and the staff did a great job of taking that narrative out of the insurance company's hand by increasing the values. It actually has paid dividends in our ability to negotiate. It kept the markets available to talk to at a large, broad number. In turn, it is keeping rate increases down, because what they are saying is this district is one that wants to work with us. Thank you to Rick, Lisa, and Rob for all the work that they've done over the last couple of months in truing up those valuations. It was roughly about a 46% increase in the values. What that does mean is 940 to a little over 1.3 billion of the property that you were insuring. That does move the needle in terms of your starting point, in terms of what we're talking about from a pricing standpoint. Rate increases on top of that, which is why this is becoming such a difficult renewal to kind of negotiate here. So our expectations for this renewal, let's jump right into the pricing. I'll just jump to the number that's big and bold and everybody is going to put their eyes on. We are projecting a cost for the property insurance this year to be $6 million. Keep in mind that 46% of that increase is being driven by valuation increases. The rest of that is being driven by what we would consider to be rate increases. The rate increases for what we would call the specific layers, I'll show you the graph in a moment, are increasing not only because of the market conditions, but also because of the projection of the 2019 and 2020 hailstorm losses. As you can see there, in 2021 was the first year that we had to kind of have difficult discussion with the insurance companies around what is the value of this loss or losses combined. So we've, since in 3 years of negotiations, gone from what was projected to be a $17 million loss to a $54 million loss. Keep in mind when I say that I'm combining the two storms in terms of their value. To now in 2023, as we go into the renewal, there is some ambiguity and some unknown because of the legal situation surrounding those losses. But the belief in the marketplace, as we understand it, obviously we can't be a product of those conversations, but the belief is that that loss will probably approach or exceed 9 figures. So as you can see on the screen, premiums have pretty much doubled over the last couple of years if we're talking higher level numbers, as has the value of the loss as we've approached each individual renewal. The other factor to discuss is 2 years ago there was a 2% wind and hail deductible. Following the increase in the projection from 17 to 54 million of those losses, the deductible increased to 3%. Now it is increasing to 5%, and the reason for that is probably less to do with the overall value of the loss, more so to do with the market conditions. If you're on the coast, you're getting pushed to a 5% wind and hail deductible, named storm deductible. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area or West Texas, if you're a loss-free account, you are probably able to hold that 3% deductible. Any sort of losses, you're just kind of being checked that box and moving on into the 5% deductible category. Unfortunately, there's not a lot we as brokers can do with respect to the deductibles in 2023. But there is a day of reckoning coming to the point where we are going to see, just like any market cycle, the price come back down. As to how the deductibles factor into that conversation, I'm not sure. Typically, deductibles, as they get to a level, do hold. But as insurance companies try to be more competitive, that is one of the levers that they can pull to retain business.
It's really a double whammy, though, because even if deductibles didn't go up, the fact that the value is increasing, which would increase the value of loss per that deductible, if it stayed at 2 or 3%, we'd still be paying more.
Correct.
So we're kind of getting hit twice with that because the value of the property is worth more, meaning the loss will be more. And then secondly, we're going from 2 to 3% to 5%.
Correct. You're exactly right. Yeah. It's it's a unique time in the industry whereby we're talking about inflationary factors, we're talking about interest rates being where they are, we're talking about loss activity, the reinsurance demands, and then obviously the loss activity that you all have been exposed to. As I've kind of alluded to Rick and Lisa in our conversations and Jason last week when we talked, it is the perfect storm. There's no other way to explain it other than you're getting hit from every angle, and there's just not a real way to avoid it at this
It's more
moment
than
in time.
double.
Yeah.
And it's like a triple.
Yeah.
Because there's less market options out there as well.
Correct.
That are allowed. I mean, and we've just become a non-desirable insurance. It's
Yeah.
kind of, and a client is the way that it was presented to us. It's kind of the
Yeah.
way that.
Yeah. It's insurance companies are a for-profit entity, right? And so, they have to be in it to make business, and part of that is the price that they have to pay the reinsurance companies. And if they can be attractive from that standpoint, they're going to shed the top end of their portfolio in terms of what are driving that cost. And unfortunately, in some instances, you are going to fall into that category.
Worked in Bermuda a few times, so reinsurance is a big deal there.
Yeah, it's the running joke inside of our organization is 5 years ago, the only people I really talked to were Travelers, AIG, Hartford, the big ones. And then I had to learn this whole wholesale market, and now I have to learn the reinsurance market, and before you know it, the ILS market, which we'll not get into today because that's a whole nother animal and confusing conversation.
Questions, comments?
Well, you've got a couple options to share with us,
I
right?
do.
On some
Okay.
opportunities to lower this premium, although none of them are stellar, but let's
correct.
talk through those.
Slightly more positive news since last time we talked. So there maybe one of them is more of a consideration than they have been in the past. Up on the screen in front of you, you can see this is when I talk about the Tetris puzzle, this is the program structure. So Lubbock Independent School District buys a $250 million limit per occurrence. That limit is strategically set based on deductible calculations and per what we would consider to be the worst case scenario. So we have actually run those studies and those forecast models to suggest if Joplin's tornado came through Lubbock, what would, after deductible calculations, this district stand to lose in terms of the overall value of the property. It is sitting right at 250 million. There is another study that would suggest you could probably buy less than that. Those studies are based on historical weather patterns in and around Lubbock, not necessarily what we forecast as the worst case scenario. If you do procure a lower limit, it will save you cost. At the top end, I can tell you though that big chunk right now of $100 million worth of insurance, that black box up there that says Mitsui, that is $72,000. So you're basically procuring $100 million for $72,000. I would consider that to be sleep at night coverage, knowing that you're going to be protected in the event of what could be a worst case scenario. The Stafford Act, which is the act that is behind FEMA, suggests that you need to buy a reasonable amount of insurance in order for FEMA to kick in. Reasonable would not necessarily be 250. It would go along with that other study. I think the number was about 160, 170 million. So 250 is a comfortable number for us. As the values are increasing, we are analyzing that to make sure that reasonable is still falling within that category. I would tell you that if the values are increasing 45%, on 160 million, forecast that out, I think we're still looking at a number that is right at 250 million, plus increase in the deductibles obviously does factor into the limit as well. So we set that limit in conjunction with studies and conversations with the district, obviously recommended to you all to make a decision on that. This is the program structure last year. As we've entered the harder market, as 2023 has approached, as we're starting to see some new information come to light as a result of some ongoing matters pertaining to the 2019 and 2020 hailstorms, this is our starting point for this year. So as you can see, a number of insurance companies either got out of the public entity insurance game, the Scholastic game. Some have highlighted in red there, cut back their lines, which means the ability for them to offer capacity. And some, in full transparency, because of the ongoing matter, have elected to non-renew the account.
Just out of curiosity, and
Yeah.
I know that you guys have worked on this, so I'm sorry, because I'm probably
No,
asking
please.
questions that were asked months ago, and I don't know the answers. Are you limited to these markets, or are you limited to offering these products through these companies, or is, like, if we talk to somebody else, are there other markets out there? Is there some way to make it more competitive? And I'm not getting you to negotiate against yourself. I just like
Sure.
out of like honest curiosity.
No, yeah. If I put on the consultant hat, right?
Yes.
Outside of what we are doing on behalf of the school district, there is the ability to buy insurance from a property standpoint from one of the risk pools. So the TASBs, the PCATs, the RMCs of the world. You all are at a total insured value level that does not meet their requirements. So I do know that Lisa and Rick have had conversations with TASB and PCAT. Once you start to creep above the $500 million limit, it really doesn't.
Yes, but I'm sorry, I was just asking, like I said.
No, yeah, of course. I understand that we would lose business if it did go to one of those pools, but on behalf of the district, we would be doing you all a disservice if we weren't at least recommending that you have those conversations. So let's kind of jump into, all right, we've got a $6 million number, we're going up in deductibles. How can we pull the lever to bring that cost down? One would be to not elect to procure hail insurance. And I know what the original thought on everybody's mind is wait, hold on, we're talking about $100 million of potential losses. Why would we not procure that coverage again going forward? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the 5% deductible basically puts you at a level on those buildings where, unless the roof is completely totaled in a future hailstorm, there's really no coverage for it. You're self-insuring that. The second factor would be, right now there is pre-existing damage on a lot of roofs as a result of those storms. There is an exclusion in every insurance policy out there that says we will not cover pre-existing damage. Now, that does not mean if half of a roof is damaged and the other half is not, they're not going to cover the other half if another hailstorm rolls through. That does not mean if the roof gets blown off in a tornado loss, they're not going to cover that. It just means for the existence of the damage today, we are not going to pay for existence or future damage to the already existing damage. So the insurance companies are taking that into consideration in terms of their pricing right now, because there is a subset of what I would call roof lines in the school district that are either new as a result of some construction projects or simply just were not affected in either of those storms. We forecasted that originally to be about a 10 to 15% overall savings if that did come to fruition. So on 6 million, between 600 and 900,000. I can tell you that it does seem in further conversations that the number might be higher than that. The only number I can provide at this time is all of those orange boxes which say Landmark on the screen in front of you. That is a insurance company called RSUI. They were last year purchased by Berkshire Hathaway, so they're part of Warren Buffett's insurance company portfolio. They have indicated that on their capacity only, they will offer a 30% decrease. So our job is to now try and utilize that to our advantage to get the likes of Lloyd's of London and on the right-hand side of the screen, Starstone, to kind of follow into that suit. How each of those companies is going to offer savings is still to be determined. Those conversations are ongoing. I don't expect 30% savings from everybody. I think that it's very difficult for these insurance companies to kind of wrap their head around, wait, what do you mean not buy hail coverage? We do have another client, Texas A&M University, who does not buy hail coverage. So it is not uncommon. It's rare, but it's not uncommon as we approach a market where, you know, cost savings are everything. You have to kind of take what you can get. And given your situation, it is more of probably a serious conversation to be had because of the limits of the limitations of what you could procure in the event of a loss because of what all exists in the current market environments. The second factor would be to sublimit hail. You are not subject right now to the amount of insurance that you were in 2019 and 2020. And the reason is because of that prior damage exclusion that exists on a lot of these policies. I would tell you in our opinion, the only way to make a meaningful impact is to sublimit that probably to $25 or less million. When you start to do that, you start to talk about minimal cost savings because as you go up the tower, costs are less. So we're talking if let's say we do sublimit that, and let's use 30% as an example, excess of 25 million's projection on a total cost perspective is about $2 million. So we'd be talking about, in the best absolute case scenario, 30% on 2 million, likely probably closer to that 10, 15, 20% range. So the overall cost savings to do that, given what I would consider the ability to procure this in the future, call it the cost of re-entry into the market, I think would probably not be worth it. Although I can tell you that it may be some lever that we have to pull in order to get the capacity we need to fill out that $250 million bucket. If we do have to pull that lever, I don't think we're talking about 25. I think we're talking about 50 million, which I think is more than ample coverage for the district at this moment in time.
So, Charlie, is there a difference in option 2, future reentry, versus option 1, future reentry? That's kind of something we talked about in our committee meeting, that 10 years down the road, we could be in a position to where we would want to get back into, if we opted out now, trying to get back in might be difficult.
Sure. The industry, whether right or wrong, does look at renewal business more favorably than new business. You know, they want to ride the wave with you, right, in times of good and in times of bad. So, and I'll just use an example that is probably not fully accurate, but if the increases were 10%, you know, to re-entry the following year, it would probably cost you 15 to 20%. Just because we're talking about new entrants into the market. It unfortunately is looked at differently. I left last week thinking to myself and probably kicking myself for not saying, you know, we're in a conversation today that is live for today, get to tomorrow. So although that cost does exist, we could also see a turn of the marketplace to the point where costs are going down. Maybe it's free to buy it next year, or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road. This is the longest hard market cycle we've seen in the industry. Most tend to last 2 to 5 years. We're already talking 5 to 8 years. So there has to be a point where the insurance company's costs are so high that they're making profitability. Hopefully weather patterns start to change a little bit. At some point, one of these insurance companies, usually, and I always joke, AIG, kind of snaps their fingers and the market starts to move in a particular direction. So I would say, although that it does exist, and I would agree with it, if you look at kind of the dynamics behind the ongoing matter and into the future, I mean, we are talking probably 5 to 10 years before some of these roofs are really starting to be replaced. And so from that factor, I mean, we are talking about a long way down the road where things could change overnight. Yes, there is a cost of reentry to it versus 1 and 2. I would encourage this group to not put as much onus on that as maybe I did last week.
Okay, thank you.
So we're in the process of replacing some roofs now.
Correct.
You know, will that change how premiums are looked at in the future, since, you know, a lot of these roofs will be brand new?
Yeah, there certainly is, as we're being told, some credit that is being given for the fact that, you know, they look at some of these roofs saying, okay, there's just not really a need to, you know, factor that into our pricing right now because of the conditions that exist on those roofs. One of the things that as you go forward, especially if you're putting on higher grade roofs, if you're putting on roofs with hail warranties of a greater magnitude, so let's call it instead of an inch and a half, we're talking about 2.5 inches in terms of the size of the hailstone, which can be, during the adjudication of any claim, can be determined. Plus the length of those warranties certainly could very much play a factor into costs in the future. You know, insurance companies love new construction, right? A, because it comes with warranty, and B, because it's better grade material.
So if there were an increase in the rate for reentry, it might be mitigated by the fact that some of these roofs are new.
Correct, absolutely, yeah. Option number 3, and I'll go back one slide, excuse me, would be to buy a lower loss limit, as I alluded to a little bit ago. That would be not be a recommendation of our team just because of the increase of the values kind of going along with the Stafford Act and the reasonable level of insurance. We are producing a report in the coming week that will suggest what that level is. I do think we probably approach and get close to $250 million. So I do like where it's at. With the increase in the deductible, it's going to offset some of that increase in the value. So I do think that $250 million is going to be the number to stay with. We will obviously go by what the reports tell us, but our recommendation at this time, not knowing what that says, is probably going to be that number 3 is an option that should not be considered. And then number 4 is, as we alluded to last week, and Jason and Ryan did a great job of kind of wrapping their head around this, implementing a plus aggregate deductible. That's I would call it your progressive insurance commercial, your vanishing deductible. That's a one-time fund that you attach in excess of your deductibles. It would be putting your capital to use and essentially betting on yourself. What we're talking about in terms of the level of those deductibles, though, I mean, we really don't start the conversation until $5 or $10 million. That's on top of what you're going to see in an increase in cost. If something were to happen next year, that could be catastrophic from a budgeting standpoint. So I would not be our recommendation to do that for a school district. If you're a public company or you have free cash flow that you look from a historical perspective and say this might be a good bet for us, that might be a bigger conversation. But somebody who is subject to taxpayer dollars, it would probably not be our recommendation to move forward with that. So to kind of summarize that, I would tell you I think number 1 is probably the one avenue that is going to move the needle the most, that you could probably see some savings on. As I mentioned, greater than $600,000 to $900,000. Hopefully we can get the other insurance companies to fall in line with Landmark RSUI. Number 2, I think, is more of an option out of necessity. I would suggest that probably be something, if we need to pull that lever excess of $50 million because we're struggling to find capacity there, that would be something that we implement. But I would say for the purposes of our recommendation to this group, number 1 be considered from a cost-saving perspective.
Something else we talked about, and you may have had a chance to look or not, is we have some particular properties that we may not choose to insure or we may not want to. Mm-hmm. Have you looked into that? Yes. And kind of, can you give us an update on how that would impact? Yeah, certainly. So there are 4 properties that are either currently vacant or that will be vacant at the end of the school year. The one property being Matthews that is still being occupied. We did look into and project out what the cost to insure those buildings at 100% would be based on the projected rate. So this is obviously an arbitrary number. It would be about $250,000. The savings on that would not apply apples to apples, but I do think it would be significant. We're projecting that number to be about $200,000 if you elected to not insure those properties, simply for the fact of
as we discussed last time, if they are hit by a tornado, you were going to demo them anyways, or either look to sell them. So that's a substantial needle mover in terms of the overall cost. It would be our recommendation, if you all are comfortable with it, to not insure those properties for 2023 and beyond.
Those properties are the current empty schools that we consolidated, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So between now and, as I would call it, 3/23, which is the board meeting date, and our job does not end on the board meeting date. Our job ends the day that we have to send you an invoice, which is April 1st. If we are able to knock off costs after the board meeting, although you all approve a number, I don't think you would mind if we came back to you with a number that's a little bit less. So between now and then, we're going to continue our marketing efforts, meaning we're going to have conversations with insurance companies. So we've been to Atlanta, which are where most of the domestic markets are based, twice this year. We met a group of non-Atlanta-based markets in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That was last November. We were in London 2 weeks ago. We talk about a lot of accounts when we were there. It wasn't just specific to Lubbock ISD, but this was, as you can imagine, the hottest topic that we had to discuss. So we're going to continue those conversations. It does showcase a lot of good faith to the London market, which I think is going to become your predominant player on your account. That we did go over there. They're very relationship-based. They're only offering their capacity right now to those that already have London capacity on the program. That is specific to school districts in the state of Texas. So if you are, let's say, buying your insurance 100% from domestic markets, and you are wanting to get into the London market because it's cheaper in 2023, the answer is no. Primarily because of the restriction on the amount of insurance they're able to offer versus last year. So we're going to continue those conversations. We had a very, very long discussion yesterday prior to this meeting with the wholesale brokerage team, our team, one of the lead markets, RSUI. I do think we are still tracking to that $6 million number. I don't think there's going to be much wiggle room off of that, obviously, unless the district elects to not purchase hail. So we are, we never want to come to you with a number and then lowball it, but at the exact same time, we don't want to come to you with a number and then it end up being, $7 million. So I still stand by that projection. I think based on yesterday's, conversation, that is still a good number. So we'll continue those efforts. I would encourage this group by maybe in the next couple of days, although it kind of has worked itself out, obviously, versus, compared to the conversation that we've had last week as well, to kind of decide on its direction. I wouldn't say definitively we're going with no hail or we're going with hail, because I think that we've all backed into the idea that those are really the only two options, and we can provide that projected amount as we deliver the final proposal with hail coverage included. But just be thinking in the back of your minds over the course of the next week and a half prior to the board meeting when we deliver what would be, I would call it a final product, what the district might want to do in terms of what dollar amount would actually move the needle towards not buying hail coverage. We will obtain final quotes next week. Spring break, obviously for the district, spring break in Atlanta, which is where a lot of the domestic markets are based. So we might not have formal quotes by the end of next week. What we will have is solid pricing indications from the underwriters. Very, very seldomly does it happen where somebody indicates a price and it doesn't actually memorialize into a quote. Insurance companies are very keen on not offering up something until they're definitive on what they can do. So the plan would be, if at all possible, to have a bindable quotation number to you by the 23rd. Obviously, that's our goal, but I would encourage you all to kind of operate on a going forward basis that at the board meeting on the 23rd, you will approve a not to exceed number with giving us more time to try and whittle that number down or to kind of have it memorialized into a number. And then finally, LISD has been a very good partner of us, dating back to 2017 when we won an RFP and have been your broker since, gone through 2 RFP cycles. In times of need, we want to come to the help of our school districts, and we want to be the partner that you had hired us to be. I don't believe, and our team would appreciate and suggest this comment too, I don't believe that we should make more money just because of the detriment that you all are going to be in from a situation. So we are going to credit back $200,000 of what would be increased commissions to us, to the school district this year to help offset with some of those rising costs.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We appreciate your partnership, and I know that was not easy news to deliver. I'm not sure it was unexpected by any of us, but Jason, any other thought? You were there at the meetings.
Yeah, I would say we had a pretty robust conversation about the potential risks of trying to self-insure rather than taking insurance.
Sure.
And can you kind of speak to the correlation to FEMA and how that relates to being self-insured?
Yeah, so if you all were to self-insure, take $6 million, put it into a fund for a rainy day, that could add up pretty quickly over time, but it also presents serious risks and potential challenges. The greatest challenge being kind of going back to the Stafford Act. If you all do elect to move in that direction and not procure the insurance, if the tornado comes through, FEMA's not coming to bail you out because there was not a reasonable amount of insurance procured. It would be our recommendation, though, if you do decide to not procure hail coverage, to take that money, if at all affordable and an option for the district, and put it into what we would call a risk reserve fund. And that's just a fund that grows year over year. You'll see a lot of districts down on the coast do that, particularly because of the exposure to the hurricane, because they know that it's not one of those situations where hail might hit something, and particularly our coastal districts. If a hurricane comes through, it's going to hit everything. So the deductible magnitude is much greater for them. Brazosport ISD, for example, is a client of ours, and they've built up a $20 million reserve fund for the payments of the deductibles. Now, that's happened over a number of years. So we would encourage you to take that savings, apply it to a deductible fund or a risk reserve fund for future years. And the reason why we would suggest that is because once you build up a fund balance, we can have a bigger conversation on taking some more risk or becoming a little bit unique with that type of risk, maybe applying that to a plus aggregate deductible and kind of betting on yourselves in the future. I don't know that there's a law out there specifically that says you can't self-insure, but I do know that there are some requirements from lending banks and lending requirements that you have to buy some level of insurance.
Like if we owe money on any properties, we have to have insurance.
Yeah, so I don't know that you all, even as a tax-paying or a tax revenue organization, can do that, but it would, obviously, from the Stafford Act's perspective, you want to be bailed out from FEMA if the wind does blow.
Absolutely.
No, and it definitely wasn't something I was advocating. It was just more of let's have the conversation
I
where it's
think
on
that was
record.
great.
Yeah.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
Great way to go, Jason.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because we weren't there.
So what's the next step, Dr. Rollo? I mean, will we come back with kind of this not to exceed number, or maybe a firmer proposal to the operations committee, or will it just?
No, our next step would be the purpose of having Charlie and his team here today was to deliver the news that they have. So we are looking at minimum a $6 million premium, and so we would bring that for approval at the March 23rd board meeting because the policy renews April 1st. Mm-hmm. So that number could end up being less. I kind of joked with Charlie when they walked in and said, "So Lisa told me you got it down to 4.2 this morning." You could see the blood draining from his face.
Red enough.
But so that would be the next step, is for us to bring to
They
you
just
all.
wanted us to know about them. You guys bring us up to speed on it.
Right. I mean, it's
And
more
I
than
think that's
doubled.
important. Yeah.
And when I started in this role, our property insurance was less than $500,000.
$492.
So it's a large number.
That's
and
ridiculous.
And I appreciate you going through the
crazy.
industry background and the reasons why this is happening, because it's not because we're just willy-nilly wanting to add more insurance cost and add coverage. So I appreciate you doing that, because it's important that that's known, why this is happening.
And you are different than your peers, given the situation with the losses and obviously the extenuating circumstances. It's hard to compare you to anybody else in the state because of what you're seeing. We are seeing valuation issues where school districts are not wanting to come up to the valuation requirements. It is making our job more difficult than what you all are experiencing from a loss perspective. I mean, everybody's having losses. And so, I commend the staff for doing what they needed to do to get us to this place. It's obviously a very uncomfortable situation and message to have to deliver, but I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For all of you guys. Thank you.
I have a hand in the back from Mr. Nance, who I think has some words to say, if we may invite him to the podium. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks.
I guess you didn't think we were going to talk hail and not see my face up here a little bit.
I was
but
hoping, man.
This would be about a 1-minute speech three years ago. Now I'm trying to limit my conversation down to make this meaningful. But we talked about, just again, we're getting these re-roofs, and what are we doing going back? We're doing roofs with hail warranty, 20-year roof warranty up to 3-inch hail. So going forward, 3-inch hail, it's a little bit bigger than baseball size.
Mhm.
So we're going to have a very catastrophic event, a baseball size hail, to warrant the need for hail damage. And I'm trying to make this objectively. I'm not coming with you with a strong perspective saying we need to do this. Just trying to give you more facts so you can base more information on. So again, the 2% deductible to 5% deductible, what does that mean for us? Take a Monterey High School. Valuation could be around $100 million, roughly. 5% of that is $5 million. To re-roof, again, you got a 2-story building. You got a lot of ancillary valuation that's not associated with the roof. So you could be looking at a $6 to $7 million roof and a $5 million deductible. You know, and that's when you start weighing out. Okay, now I take an elementary. I got $50,000 square feet. You know, $220 a foot, or $200 bucks a foot for easy math. You got a $10 million valuation. You got a 5% deductible, so you're $500,000. Maybe I can replace the roof for $700,000 to $800,000. So, you know, these gaps going from depending on the campus, and there's all different reasons why, you know, variables there. But the biggest thing I hear too is we're not getting the cosmetic exclusion. Your metals, your doors, your windows, HVAC, and all that's contributing to our hail coverage we have now, which helps the valuation offset a 2% deductible. So as we go through this, and then of course the magnitude of which we get this time period to do the work and get into replacement cost value, actual cost value, you know, if we had just 50 campuses per se that had hail damage, we only have a small window during the summer months to get that work done, which is why we're kind of rushing to workshops to get the work out there. It's really limiting to try to get everything done in the event of another catastrophic storm. So I bring you this just to shed light on some more things that we've experienced recently, the knowledge that we got, and I appreciate the guys coming here, and you know, never easy to report bad news, but it is what it is. I just want to make sure that everybody understands currently what we have so you can make a decision going forward. So
Sounds good.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
See you guys on the 23rd.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much. All right. That is the end of our workshop, and we will adjourn this meeting at 9:51.